Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 60. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. So this morning, I opened up my Bible app, and the verse of the day is as follows. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. Proverbs 22:4. So anyways, that was the verse of today, and I felt inclined to share it. The reason why is because, well, it's the verse of the day, and I think it's good for us to get into the word daily. You as a pastor, you understand the value of that.
Yep.
How you doing, Lucas?
Man, I'm fantastic. We had a men's conference I got to speak at this weekend, which was a lot of fun.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was
Where
at Antioch Christian Fellowship. So I was the only white pastor that was speaking there, which is always a blast to get to partner with our sister church, which is a good buddy of mine, Dr. Chris Respis is the lead pastor there. They've got, I think, like 20 ordained ministers that go to that church. A lot of them have like retired from other areas, and they've come here and they've landed at Chris's church because he's such a great leader, such a good
that's awesome.
teacher, and has been a great friend over the years. And we combined together last year to do our Good Friday service, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, you got to speak at our men's conference," and so it was a ton of fun. We've got somebody from there, one of the guys that opened it up, named Broderick Carter, that I think we need to interview. So he was I don't want to like steal all his thunder, but he works in the film industry now, and he's got a couple of documentaries that are out. Another one that I think is about to be picked up by a streaming service. But like his life turned around after he got carjacked and shot 5 times, and he didn't realize he was shot until he walked into his house and collapsed because he was in shock that like it was happening. He collapsed and realized that like he was waiting. He didn't give, like, I don't want to give away everything that's going on. But so he and I were talking. His testimony is amazing. What he's doing now is really, really cool. And I was like, bro, we got to get you on the podcast.
Bro, I want to hear this.
Yeah, he's a stud. So, yep. So that was a great way to spend a Saturday, and today was a blast at church.
Sure.
Boys are doing good, so I'm fired up, man.
Dude, that's awesome. So the verse, the reward for humility, the reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. How do you describe what fear of the Lord is as a pastor, as a Christian, to where people can take that for what it is, not as in a like a fearful way?
Yeah.
Because it's good to have, obviously, a healthy fear of the Lord. Like, we should. But people hear that and they get very fearful of that saying. They get afraid and frightened, right? And the spirit of fear is not of the Lord.
Right.
So how would you discern between that?
Yeah, so it's the way that it's used is it is a healthy respect for authority.
Perfect.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I try to communicate whenever I talk about that is like, you know, in my home, I want my children to fear me, but not in the sense like they shouldn't be afraid of their dad at all. Like I never want them to be afraid of me, but they should know that if they're doing something wrong, that I will correct them, and they should have a part of their conscience should be affected by the fact that they know if I do this, and I'll use the one that was like most prevalent, you know, growing up as the oldest of 4, the oldest 3 of us are boys, right? We knew that there was a line that we could not cross with dad when it came to respecting mom. Oh. Right? Like I literally got drug outside at one point because of something that I said.
Did I ever share this with you?
I don't think so.
My dad, like I was mouthing off to my mom, and out of nowhere, just whoosh, I'm getting grabbed, picked up, and lifted up by my dad.
Yep.
Back of my head is touching the ceiling.
And your dad's not an incredibly tall guy. He and I were hanging out last week.
Yeah. 6'1", but that's not super tall.
Right.
Incredibly strong.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
And I instant fear.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid of him,
right,
but instant fear because I had crossed the line.
Absolutely.
And I will never forget him saying, "You will never speak to your mother like that again."
Yep.
And then set me down. I was crying.
Right, yeah. Like you can't help but be affected by that.
I wasn't a little kid either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I wasn't a little kid when this happened.
I think I was like 15 or 16, right? Whenever it happened, which is kind of that, like that 14, 15, 16 seems to be the age where like that challenge happens, right? What's the Garth Brooks song, "The Night I Called the Old Man Out," right? Like it's one of those songs that I think because there's we've got a lot of blue collar and like cowboy guys and stuff at our church. And so that when we talk about fear, that's one of the things that I go back to, right? Is that like, I never want my kids to be afraid of me. But this is what I was talking about at the men's conference this week. Is I was looking at my thing was on what it means to be a spiritual man, was my part of the conference. And I took the fruit of the Spirit. And then like every one of those things has its opposite, but like we can't be gentle unless we're capable of harm. Like you can't be gentle unless you're capable. Like if I'm not able to harm something, then I'm not being gentle.
Yeah, we've talked about it before.
Yeah, because I don't have any like power that's under control, right? So that's the thing when we talk about the fear of the Lord is like the Lord is described, God is described as a good father. And a good father chastises and corrects and disciplines his kids. But likewise, he's also gentle and tender with them in those moments. And so that's what I always liken it to. And I mean, I think that this goes back to like our interpersonal relationships. And we talked a little bit about this on the episode where you were talking about working for Jocko, right? That there is a certain amount of camaraderie that y'all felt with Jocko. Yeah. There's a certain amount of brotherhood that's within there, just within the SEAL community and all of that stuff. But there was a definite fear of, as Chris Kyle called him, the big boss man, whenever he ended up on campus.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Like I had a healthy fear of my grandparents.
Yeah.
Because if there was a line that you crossed, you were getting legit spankings.
Right.
It didn't matter that you're grandma and grandpa's. I've been on the receiving end of many spankings from a broom handle.
Oof.
From the beautiful, innocent Saint Marilyn Dinnell.
Right.
Who must have played professional softball because, God, bro, I'm telling you.
She knew how to use it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And if Tommy, my grandfather, was given those... but they were deserving.
Right, and that's
because
we
were acting like animals.
Right.
Like legit savage animals out on the property.
And that's it. Like there's this, it's not about being afraid, but it is about that, like that healthy respect that I know as long as I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing and I'm working, I'm being a good teammate or being a good family member or whatever that is, like being a good servant of the kingdom. Yeah. Then I don't have anything to worry about. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that fear that I have is going to be that fear that I have of, you know, whether it's our authority figures or God himself, that is also going to be the barrier of protection that I am covered by. And that, you know, that's the dichotomy of it, or the flip side of it, is that like it's all being done for our good. Yeah. And that, again, you know, if you can't be gentle unless you're capable of harm. Well, you also, there's so many people that are out there, and I was talking to some buddies about this earlier today. We got a challenge going on with some of our men, right? And we're doing a certain amount of push-ups, a certain amount of sit-ups, a certain amount of air squats every day. We're all realizing how difficult sit-ups are. Right, we're getting like halfway through, and then like our abdomens are turning against us. We're like freezing up. So like that's the main thing that a lot of people are having trouble with. And one of the guys that we were talking to about this, he's like, I don't know if I can do 10 push-ups. And I was like, you have an entire arsenal of weapons at home. And he was like, yeah. I was like, but like, if you can't get to one of those, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you have to be physically capable.
Yeah, and like, how long are you? If you can't do 10 push-ups,
how long can you fight somebody off?
Yeah, or how long can you stand and fire a weapon if that's what you're doing?
Not long,
right? Yeah, not long at all. So the idea that like, oh, I've got all this equipment and I have all of this stuff and like I've got this many plate carriers and all that stuff, like, bro, that sounds really cool.
If you can't do 10 push-ups, you're not shooting and moving with a plate carrier on.
No chance.
Yeah.
No chance. But this comes back to something you've talked about often, is that desire and capabilities are two different things.
Yeah.
And all of that goes into like what it means to have a healthy respect and fear of somebody. And when you talk about the fear of the Lord, it's all of those things. Like God is infinitely capable. He has infinite resources. He has infinite blessing, but that's balanced out with like the fact that he also has infinite wrath, and that there will be some that are destined to go there because they chose not to love and care for the Lord. And if there isn't a balance of those things, then one of them is essentially a fallacy. So that's it. That's a long way around that.
No, I love
answer.
it. And so, would you say another word that you could use for, obviously not where I'm not trying to like replace words in the Bible, but if somebody's having a hard time like wrapping their mind around that, could you say like, could you tell them like, hey, look at that as having respect for the Lord?
100%. I think that is the easiest word to replace it with.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to replace words out of the Bible, because then you start to come into like the whole like, well, now this is how we interpret it. Well, no.
But there are synonyms for a reason, right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I just want our listeners to think, and and also it comes down to like having an open mind. When you hear something and if you don't like it, ask yourself why. Is it because you don't fully understand it? Because if someone reads that and they're like, well, I don't like that, it's telling me I have to fear somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can't wrap your mind around it, it's saying respect, having humility and respect of the Lord. You know, and if you're respecting the Lord, like having healthy fear, then you're going to do the right things and not do the things that you're not supposed to.
100%.
And, you know, I mean, I love that long answer that you gave, because there's so many things that we can stem off of. And, you know, today, Amanda and I had the honor to go up to the McKinney campus for our church milestone. So there's
is that where Chris is?
Chris, so Chris Lerma, he's the head pastor up there, the campus pastor up there. Awesome man of God. And you know, for those that don't know who Chris is, I talked about him. Mike and I talked about him. He's one of my pastors with Tyron and Chris. Mike and I, we went backpacking together.
Yeah, so, the Ansel Adams Wilderness episode.
Yeah. And
or the JPP's maple syrup episode is.
It was a defining moment for JP's health. Deciding to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to call Jonathan and Ann at First End Nutrition and be like, hey, I know what to do, but I need help and accountability. And I also know Jonathan and Ann know so much about health and nutrition that I just don't know. And it, you know, for me, it's the opportunity to work with Jonathan and Ann at First End Nutrition has been a game changer, you know. Down 22 pounds. I've been floating down. Nice. I even got down to where I was like down 26 pounds, and then kind of went up and went down. And you know, I'm hitting that point now where it's like, okay, but I mean, to be down that much weight in 5.5, 6, now I'm starting my 6th week. That's not bad. You know? And it just shows like how easy. Yeah. It's not easy, but they make it easy to follow a plan. So, anyways, you know, that backpacking trip was a reminder of like, hey, you need to make your health a priority. Because with me, when I'm not making my health a priority, I'm actually not honoring the Lord.
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed to do that. And so, anyways, Chris has been awesome in that as well, because
he's also
knew,
like a billy goat.
Dude, him and Tyron, but here's the other thing. Chris and Tyron are just so incredibly, they're just great examples of how, as men, we should be living our lives. Mm-hmm. They honor the Lord, they honor their wives, and they're physically fit.
Yeah.
Why should you not be physically fit? Because we get complacent and lazy like I did. I'm talking about me and me only on this episode right now. But if you feel compelled that you can align with that, well then, hey, take control over that. And that's what I did. And because honestly, it's the example that Mike, Chris, and Tyron set for me with them in regards to their health and how physically active they are and how just strong they are and athletic and how they were in great shape. And I'm like, there's no reason why not. I should not be able to be doing these same things. So Chris has checked in on me a few times in regards to, hey man, how's your walk? How's things with Amanda? How's your health? Just, checking in, because he knew it's something I wanted to, which I thought was really cool. And so anyways, him and I were talking. He was just checking in on me. And he's like, hey man, what are you doing on on Sunday, November 10th, are you going to be in town? Are you out? I'm like, no, I'll leave on the 11th. And he said, hey, would you want to come up and join us for the 11 a.m. service and speak afterwards for a luncheon to honor veterans? I mean, I was honored that he asked me to do that.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, there's, so many incredible people that Milestone brings in to speak to their veterans. And he asked me to do that. I was like, I was a little taken back a little bit by that, but honored for sure. And I was like, well, yeah, of course, I would be honored to do that. And so it was a great service. It was a really cool church service. And actually, our pastor, Jeff Little, he was preaching out of the book of Nehemiah. And what book were you preaching out of today?
We're in the book of Nehemiah.
Dude, how awesome is that?
Pretty cool.
And so anyways, it was great to be up there in the McKinney area at that church. And then to be able to sit around and, a couple guys from Double Five came up.
Very cool.
That are veterans, which is really cool. Brent came up.
Nice. Brent considers it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, today, as we're recording, is the Marine Corps birthday. And so he was like,
Happy birthday, Devil Dogs.
Yeah. And he was just like, as long as you know that today is Marine Corps birthday. He's texting me on Saturday.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'll be there. He's like, I normally don't do veteran luncheon recognition things because I don't need the recognition. That's not why I did it. He goes, but since you're there, I'll come to heckle you and remind you that it's the Marine Corps birthday.
It's the Marine Corps birthday. Yeah.
So he was there, and then David and Robin were able to come. Robin got her blue belt yesterday.
Nice. Congratulations,
at the promotions.
Robin.
And so they came, and then another guy, Charles, came, and he, Charles trains at our gym. I just connect to you guys via text. He's
nice.
A good dude. Former 82nd Airborne.
Very cool.
Yep.
82nd all the way, baby.
Yeah, baby. Trains at Double Five as well, and has a beautiful little daughter that trains at our gym as well.
That's cool.
He has sole custody of his daughter. It's just him and his daughter, and he's just a good human, man.
Right.
And so he drove all the way up there as well, and it was just, it was a good day. And it was cool to be able to talk about understanding the importance of your mission as a Christian.
Yeah.
And especially as veterans. And I shared my story, as you know very well, that we've shared on this podcast, that I talk about at the muster, of just how, I lost sight of my mission and my focus, and, I got complacent, and it was cool to be able to just, share those thoughts and tie the Bible and faith into it. And so, it was a good day, man. It was a good day. So, anyways, what do you want to jump into, brother?
Man, I think there's a lot of things we can get into.
I know we've had some questions also, right?
Of all this stuff. Yeah, we've got some Q&A stuff. I like the idea of focusing in on like the respect and humility thing, because I think, obviously we know that humility is the key characteristic of any leader. It's like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Most important characteristic a leader can have.
Yep.
And that's something that you guys teach at Echelon Front. That's obviously something that you saw play out on the battlefield. That is that's something that, like, day in and day out was a thing that not only did you have to exemplify, but that you also saw your guys doing, right? Particularly your leadership with Jocko and Seth. And so one of the things, particularly for veterans, that I find really interesting, and as we're getting ready to celebrate, well, at this point, at the time that this has come out, Veterans Day has already come and gone, right? But as we celebrate vets, that there tends to be, particularly with combat veterans, and I'll kind of hone in on that.
Okay.
There tends to be an attitude of humility with combat veterans when it comes to civilians, and I've always found this really interesting. Is since the Vietnam era, we haven't really had anyone who was conscripted, right? Like we haven't had a draft.
Yeah.
And so there is, with a couple of veterans that I talked to, one in particular who's a friend of yours that I met a few weeks ago and was hanging out. He's team guy still in.
Yep.
And his perspective on it, I was like, hey, what do you think of Veterans Day? And he's like, I signed up to do this, and it's the greatest job in the world.
Exactly.
So when somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, hey, happy Veterans Day. He's like, on the one hand, I think about all the buddies that I lost.
Yep.
Right. And on the second hand, it's like, you're thanking me for getting to do exactly what I wanted to do and to sign up for all of that. So it's for me, it's like this weird thing, but he was very gracious and very humble. And a lot of of the vets that I know, especially the combat vets, they signed up. They volunteered to do it. Like, we have a volunteer armed forces in the United States, and so whenever I wish guys like Eric, for instance, who we had on the podcast, Happy Veterans Day. He's like, oh yeah, hey, thanks. It was freaking awesome. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yep.
But they do have this. With civilians, they do have with the NCCs, I might say, there is this like humility to it. That's like, hey, I appreciate it, but it was really one of the coolest times of my life.
Yeah.
How do you view that? Like when people wish you a happy Veterans Day or thank you for your service, like what's that for you?
Exactly what this guy who was one of my best friends from high school we literally went to high school, best friends in high school, rode street bikes together. Was my roommate in San Diego when I was stationed down there. He was in college. And then he went into the teams when I was on my Ar Ramadi deployment, or went into the Navy to become a team guy. So it's like really cool. Same thing. And
when he retires, I hope we can get him on.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, he's super humble dude. Stud in the teams. But so I was just smiling as you're saying that because, I just did an event last Friday night with actually this company, Sylvan.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cool construction company. Gave me that as a gift. And
it's a Hardy mug.
I know. But I was up there and this company, the culture of Sylvan Incorporated is unreal.
Yeah.
Like it is a testament to their leadership of how much they care about their people. And you're talking about humility and respect as we were talking about that verse, and I wrote down trust, listen, respect, influence, and care, because that's what makes up a relationship.
Right.
And a relationship is what leadership is. It's your ability to build a relationship and influence somebody. And that's what actual true leadership is. And so that's how we define a relationship. And as I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about actually legitimately this company and how much they honored their people on Friday. Huge event just to honor their employees, and they honored their veterans, and they honored me there for being able to come speak, and and afterwards, like it was kind of uncomfortable, man.
Really?
Because I had never had a company like go at this level of just like hyping me up before and after, and just they were genuine though. Like that's the thing, they were super genuine.
Not like when I hype you up.
You genuinely just want to piss me off.
I'm effective.
You are effective. No, but I say that like humbly because they were being genuine, and it made me uncomfortable, but it also made me thankful that we have Americans like that.
Yeah.
We have companies like them, and there's a lot of our clients are like that. And the gentleman that put together the training and the event, I was talking to his wife afterwards as I was leaving, and she goes, thank you so much. One of the other guys was like, hey, thank you for your service. And I smiled, and I said, I was like, I appreciate that, but it makes me a little uncomfortable. And he goes, why? I said, because it was the best job of my life, and I got paid to do my dream job, man, and I'm just thankful. I signed up to do it, and I got to do it, and I was like, I promise you, it was a lot of fun. And he just smiled, and he goes, good. I'm happy for you.
Good.
And the guy was just like super cool. And, so to answer your question, I think veterans, when someone says, hey, thank you for your service, just smile and say, thank you. Thank you. And I'm thankful that I had that opportunity.
Yeah.
Or if you didn't enjoy your time in the military, be like, hey, I appreciate it. Wasn't all that I thought it was being, I got out. Like whatever. I don't care what you say. Just be honest and be genuine. The other thing that we also have to be mindful of as veterans and service members is when people thank us for our service on Memorial Day, don't be an idiot that's like, it's not about me. It's not, because people like veterans will do that bull crap on social media. It's like, one, okay, cool. You're signaling for attention. Mm-hmm. We get it. Two, like just be thankful that someone's thank you for your service, and understand their intent is they don't understand what to say to you on Memorial Day. And they're trying to be nice and be thankful and appreciative of your service. So when someone says thank you for your service on Memorial Day, what you should do is say thank you. It was an honor to serve, and I hope to live my life to honor those that are no longer with us.
Boom.
Just say something like that.
Yeah. So
you don't have to correct anybody. This is not your moment to educate people on the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Especially, like, dude, just shut up. Say thank you. And if you're so inclined to educate them, you better have a really good relationship with them. And like, if you were to, like, let's say you did that, man, but hey man, look, I appreciate it. Hey man, I appreciate, today is about those that are no longer with us. I know you know that, but thank you for that comment. I appreciate it, man. I just hope I can live my life to honor those guys.
Man, I think we actually had this conversation.
We have.
I don't think it was on this show. I think we might have done it on Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, where I just asked, hey, what are we supposed to say to you on Memorial Day? And you were like, I don't know.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, what's up?
What's up, y'all?
Yeah. So when I was working at Starbucks, so when I got back from Canada, when I was a missionary there, I was just trying to sort myself out in life, and I knew that I could work 20 hours a week at Starbucks, and like David, who we had on, like David Marr, I had a resume that was filled with adventures and not very much consistency. Like, oh, every 90 days you left a job that you were at and went and took a tour that you could be on for 90 days. It's like, yes.
Yeah, it's called living life.
Yeah, why did you do that? Because I was 23 years old and they were paying me a ridiculous amount of money, but now I'm in overdraft and I really need, right? So like that was it. But so I work at Starbucks because they had a really great insurance package for 20 hours a week.
Oh yeah,
I was
they
like,
do.
sweet, yeah. Like
Yep.
I'm gonna sign up for that. I'm gonna get in on that. I knew that I needed insurance, and then ended up with like 3 other jobs that I was juggling. One of my bosses, or one of my supervisors at Starbucks, we worked for the 4:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. shift. Mm-hmm. And we had these customers who came in like every day at like 5:15, 5:30. They were there every day getting their coffee, chat with us for a couple of minutes while we're making it, and they're off to work. They were definitely there, early and ahead of time, part of their routine, and we got to have these chats. And I watched her dress somebody down who'd said, hey, happy Memorial Day, because they knew that she was a service member. And so she just like lets them have it, blows up. Like, that's not what this is about. You don't tell a veteran happy Memorial Day, blah, blah, blah. This is about the people that we lost and all that. And so she comes back, and I was like, hey, weren't you like a cook on an army base? And she was like, yeah. I was like, you were a cook on an army base in like the late 90s, right? And she was like, yep. I'm like, who did you lose? Nobody.
Yeah.
Right? There was like a fry cook that got burned one time on a shift of hers. And I'm not trying to like diminish this at all, but
you're not diminishing her service, but
you went out of your way to
draw attention.
Yeah, and to dress down a person who is a really, first off, from where I was at, right? A great customer, a really good tipper, right? Which we split those as part of our income, that you just ran them off because you got upset because they didn't know what to say to you. Like, hey, listen, I also am very thankful that you volunteered, and what you did, that role that you played in the armed services, was necessary.
Yep.
And very thankful that you volunteered for that and all of that. But like, that was completely uncalled for. Then
it's embarrassing.
And then I was just told, like, I didn't serve, so I don't get it. So the first person I called was Eric, and I was like, hey, this happened. And Eric, let's just say he was on my side. I won't repeat what was on that text message, but yeah, he was on Team Barista NCC that day. So, yeah.
That's embarrassing, man.
It's weird though, but like we don't know what to say, and that's the balance though between this like respect and humility. We've talked about it a little bit, like how our relationship is one that whenever we talk about your time served, right, that I don't want to say I handle it with kid gloves, but I'm very intentional about the type of questions that I ask, the way that I ask those questions, because it is something that is incredibly foreign to me and like outside of the realm of anything that I will likely be a part of, unless something just blows up. But that said, there's a humility around, I'll say it, and this is the reason I say combat veterans. There is a humility around combat veterans when you talk to them about their time of service, or you thank them for for the time that they spent serving.
Most of them.
Yeah, right.
There's always outliers.
Right. There has to be exceptions to every rule, right? But why do you think, as a combat vet, that, like, on the one hand you have, hey, thanks, it was the best job I've ever had. Yeah. But also that there is a bit of, a mix of emotions about that. Is it because of the desire to honor the guys who passed in the line of service, or is it because of the things that you saw, or the things that you're seeing now, or is it like a mix of that? Like, kind of unpack that for me, that mentality of, when you think about your time in service and somebody thanks you for that, like what all is going through your mind? Like what does that bring up for you?
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm going to talk about what it brings up to me because it always varies.
Right.
I don't think there's an answer that's universal for anybody. But combat is humbling.
Yeah.
It's very humbling. And combat veterans, we all know that there's a difference between all the branches, and we'll heckle each other and everything else like that. And there's definitely division between the branches until you serve in combat with another branch.
Yeah.
Because every branch is like, oh, we're better. I mean, we literally have things that we sing in boot camp that are vulgar towards the other branches. That's just part of boot camp. And part of that is build a little camaraderie and pride for your branch. But at the end of the day, it's one team, one fight.
Yeah.
And any combat veteran that I've talked to, not just you deployed to a combat zone, but the combat vets that were actually in combat, because there are guys and gals that have deployed to a combat zone but never were in combat.
Right.
They're in again, like you're saying, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not taking anything away from it.
No, they didn't choose their assignment.
Exactly.
Right?
They did, and they also didn't choose not to go do stuff because there's So I'm definitely not diminishing that at all, but there is a difference between that. And, for the most part, the combat veterans that I've spoken to and gotten to know and worked with that were in combat, actually like actual gunfights and just being mortared and ID'd and working through those problems and just the chaos of war. At the end of the day, they understand that it's one team, one fight.
Yeah.
And it's a very humbling thing to be a part of when you're losing teammates, when teammates are being wounded, when they're being flown home with an American flag over that casket.
Yeah.
When, a unit that you're working with loses a large amount of their people, or a large amount of them are wounded, and they're, reaching out and calling out for an all hands for whoever can come donate blood.
Yeah.
And guys are like super dehydrated, so they're taking IVs. They're getting IVs so they can be hydrated enough to go donate blood.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so until you've lived in that type of an environment, it's hard to comprehend that level of humility for the most part. And I say comprehend. I'm not saying that people aren't humbled in life.
Yeah.
There are definitely people that are humbled in life, that are civilians, that have had horrible things happen to them, that have worked through adversity, that have came out on top, that have chosen to continue fighting and not give up in life. I know that for sure, 100%. But to answer your question, I think it's because combat is such a humbling environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to remember that and fall back on that humility.
Yeah.
Also, it's an awareness thing, because the more people talk about it, the more we know that humility is an important trait, then we're more mindful of doing that. And there's been plenty of times throughout my time, even after my first deployment, my second deployment, and my third deployment, that I was an arrogant, cocky person.
Yeah.
The word starts with a P, but
right.
And I just was. And because that's a human tendency, unfortunately, is that to be arrogant and cocky. And I would get humbled by leadership in a controlled environment, in a training environment, or when things fall apart in your life, it's a good way to be humbled. When you lose a relationship, it's humbling. When you lose a marriage, that's humbling. When you lose a friendship because you're being arrogant and cocky, it's humbling, And so, life is humbling. Life is going to humble you. So, Jocko talks about this. He's talked about it for a very long time. Stay humbled or get humbled. That's another thing. I also have that awareness. That's why I got "This too shall pass" tattooed on the inside of my right forearm as a reminder. People are like, well, why didn't you do it so you can read it? I'm like, I know what it says.
Yeah.
I want it to, if it's there and somebody sees it, they read it, maybe they think about it, or maybe they ask me like, hey, what does that mean? And I got it after a time that had been very humbling. It was after Ramadi. I'd also had, I had a failed marriage, a failed serious relationship, and just a lot of things were not going well. And it was because of me, 100%. And, and part of that was poor decision making on the relationships, and then also not doing things that I should have done, and just things not working out the way they're supposed to. And it was just always a reminder of when the whole "this too shall pass" saying was, when life is hard, keep your head up, because it's going to pass. But when life is really, really good, stay humble, because it can all fall apart. And I've had my finances where they were incredible and then fall apart. I had relationships that I was like, oh, this is awesome, fall apart. And so it was just hey, just be aware. And it was also a reminder for me to just be a little more self-aware, because I think the more self-aware you are, the more honest you are with your abilities, your shortcomings, your areas of improvement, your strengths, however you want to phrase that. When you're aware of those things, it's also going to humble you. Yeah. Now it can give you confidence, which I think is very important in life. Like people need confidence and to draw, from that hope, and just knowing that they're going to be able to work through those hard things. And that's one of the things I talked about today was, the times in my life that I've fallen away from leaning on the Lord and focusing on God being in the center of my life, and Him being the refuge for my strength and my endurance and my recovery and my rest, that's when I haven't done well in life. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. And if you don't have like a clear definition and understanding of what your mission is in life, if you don't understand what winning looks like, and you're not going to war with complacency, which is a mindset and a commitment, right? Going to war with complacency is a mindset and a commitment. And that ties into Ephesians 6:11, about how we have to put on the armor of God daily, not just 100%. Occasionally. Like when we're in combat, we had to put our gear on every single day. Yeah. It wasn't like, hey, I did on Monday, I'm good now that it's Wednesday. No, every single day. And so when we understand and know what our mission is, it gives us energy to push through those hard, fatiguing times, because fatigue makes cowards of us all. Yeah. And when we're tired and exhausted and worn out, we make bad decisions. However, if we have something that we're going towards, I have a goal in mind and it's very clear, that's going to help me push through those hard times. And the other thing I talked about was, Matthew 28:18-20, which is also the mission statement of Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm. The Great Commission.
Yes.
The Great Commission.
The Great Commission. And it says, and Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth have been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the name of the Son and the name of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you to the end. And I love that, because that's a commandment and a promise, right? This is God's telling us, hey, go out and do these things, build the kingdom, but I'll be with you. Why do you think He tells us I'll be with you? Because He knows it's going to be hard. Yeah. He knows it's going to be hard. And if you don't have God as a source of refuge, like, you're going to get exhausted and worn out. And so it's just really cool to just think about how that connects to everybody, especially veterans, that commandment and that promise. And, you have to understand that we're all qualified. We're all qualified. He doesn't say, only if you're an ordained minister shall you do these things. Mm-hmm. Now, it's great to be an ordained minister if that's what God called you to do. Right. But you don't have to do that to grow the kingdom. You don't have to be in ministry to minister to people.
I was literally talking about this on Saturday.
Were you?
Yes. Yeah, that exact thing, right? That the Great Commission is not something that was just given to pastors. Like, you don't have to have a certificate to baptize somebody. What you have to have is a desire to be obedient to what God has called us to do.
I didn't know that until I went to Pursuit and served. Really? Because somebody was like, hey, I want you to baptize me. And I'm like, I can't.
Think so. I don't think I have the right degree.
I was like, I can't baptize you. And I told that to Rocky, Uncle Rocky. Yeah. He's like, why?
How come?
Yeah, he was like, how come, boy? I was like, and sorry.
No, there's the short headphone cable.
Yeah,
it's
gets me every time.
It's troubling.
Yeah, operator error over here. But anyways, Rocky was like, why can't you? And I told him, he goes, I love Uncle Rocky, man. And he was like, no. This is what the Bible says about it. And he like quoted that. He goes, you're qualified. He goes, you're just as qualified as anybody here. And he goes, if that gentleman wants you to baptize him, then you need to get in that pool and baptize him. And
dude, that's like, a freaking honor, man, to get to do that.
I was so nervous.
Really?
Like, yes. I never baptized anybody.
Okay, so
I'd never baptized anybody.
I was pretty nervous the first time I baptized somebody. Yeah.
Like, it was pretty a big deal. I mean, and I'm like, what do I say? And I'm like listening to a few other people. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's
cool,
right.
Yeah. I think I can remember most of that.
All right. Are you committed? Cool. Go down. Yeah. Come back under. Now you're clean? Is that how it works, guys?
Yeah. How long am I supposed to hold him down here? Right?
The bubbles have stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So anyways, that's a funny story. Actually, I've never told that story.
That's
I was
awesome,
like,
man.
I don't think I'm allowed to.
It's this weird thing, but it begins to be one of those like self-imposed limitations that we have.
Yeah. And also, sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
And we do that in a lot of areas in our lives where we determine what we can and can't do based on our own positive or negative. That this discipline is rooted in the lies we tell ourselves or the truths we believe, whatever.
Discipline is rooted in the truth that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. And
the lies that and complacency is rooted in the lies that we believe.
There you go. And we get in this mode where we're like, oh no, I don't think I'm capable of that. And what we don't realize is that so often the reason that we end up in those situations is that it comes back back to a humility issue. That insecurity and arrogance are both ego problems. And we don't often recognize that as the case. And I think that that's a big kind of like area right now with in my own life and in the lives of some of the guys that I'm mentoring that I'm coming to terms with. Yeah. That where these areas of my life where I've always felt like, oh no, I have this insecurity or whatever, so I can't really mess with that. Really, it's my ego trying to protect me from dealing with something that I don't want to mess with about myself. And some of them are self-image things. Some of them are capabilities or lack thereof. And some of them have to do with how I view my own self-worth in certain areas. And coming to terms with the fact that like that's an ego thing, that like I've couched it as an insecurity, but really what it is it's an ego thing because I'm not humble enough to face this thing that I don't like about myself. So I write it off as an insecurity. And when I write it off as an insecurity, that means that it's sympathetic instead of that it's brash. And boy, that's been a rough personal road for me lately. And I would say that it hasn't been fun dealing with all that stuff, but the growth that has come out of it has been awesome. And the way that it has helped me in my job, the way that it's helped me in my relationship with my wife and all those things is just unbelievable, man.
Yeah. Jocko and Leif wrote a second book called Dichotomy and Leadership.
Yes.
For a reason.
Yeah.
Because you can be too humble to the point where you're passive. It's got to be humble but not passive. And I don't know where God asks us.
Confident and not cocky.
I mean, I don't know the Bible as much as I should. I don't really know it at all, to be honest, if you look at it from a big picture thing. But I know how to open up an app and find something.
That's what I'm talking
about. And I know how to open up the Bible and read through, But I know how to ask questions to my friends.
Bro, that's
is there anywhere in the Bible that you know of where it says to be passive in regards to your faith?
No.
Okay, cool.
We're pretty much told the opposite of that.
I just want to make sure, make sure we're good, because I talked about that today about being bold with your faith.
Yeah,
and but I joke and I say that because people can actually be passive because they're trying to be too humble, or they don't actually understand what humility and strength looks like.
Yeah.
And that's goes to that humility and fear of the Lord, humility and respecting the Lord. Like, it's great to be humble, but God's not saying for us to be passive.
No, not at all.
He's actually, when we have fear of the Lord, if I had a fear of being in trouble with my parents for not doing the things that I was supposed to do, like my chores, then that actually gives me drive to go out there and take action.
Yep.
And understanding like what we as Christians should be doing for the kingdom, and that healthy fear and respect of the Lord. It doesn't say in the Bible, again, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Hey, only talk about Jesus when you're inviting them to church on Sunday.
No, and I think our interview with Jim Wallace was like pretty much, if you do that, you're failing at this.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple churches at their men's events, and that's one of the things I hit on is like, guys, like, these churches should be overflowing. They should be overflowing because we're inviting people, and you invite people throughout the week, and then also you should be driving people to local churches and to the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast, and there's other good resources out there. And I don't know, just as I've been thinking about these things recently, it's just a good reminder of what I need to do better at. And again, I'm talking to myself most of the time when I record these episodes. These aren't ever directed towards anybody else other than myself, of what I need to work on, except for when we're doing like Q&As and I'm answering questions.
Right.
But, like, honestly, as I was thinking about them when I was driving here, like, all the things we talk about, these are things for me.
Yeah.
To be working on.
Same.
These are my thoughts. These are the things that you and I discuss where I'm like, hey, bro, I'm struggling with this. Or I was talking to Tyron and Chris and Mike on the backpacking trip, and finally I was just like, all right, guys, I could use some help on this. I've been struggling with just getting rid of this, and it's, I just don't understand why, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like,
just laying it out.
Laying it out. And they're like, Chuck and Tyron and Chris read my mail.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I was like, oh, where'd you guys get all those details from? You know, but it's just godly men that are listening to the promptings of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I will agree with you 100% on, this. As much as I love getting to do this and getting the feedback and all that stuff, like, you have given me a lot of credit for directing the episodes, and like some of our Q&As or whatever, it happens to be just you and I. You're like, you do a good job of kind of directing things. That's because I'm asking you the questions based off the crap that I need to figure out in my own life. Like, I'm seeing this and I'm like, oh, this is a thing I need to fix. I'm just going to ask, like, oh, so there's a lot of people. Some people out there might be thinking this. I would like to introduce you to some people, right? Right. And I think that's one of the things about this that's so fun for me is being able to do that. So in that vein, right, when you do something like talk to vets, I think it's very easy for both the NCC and for the veteran to look at your resume, particularly at, and I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I know that it will inevitably, but like particularly at all of the different awards that you received, the combat awards that you received
For doing my job?
Yes. Right. For doing your job, but for doing your job at a level of excellence that other people recognized and thought merited recognition, right? That it's easy to look at that and to begin to have an elevated view of your platoon and your task unit, which I believe, like, to this day is still the most decorated task unit in the history of the Navy SEALs. How do you reset and remind the people that you're talking to, that you are trying to lead, to mentor, those types of things, when you have such an impressive resume on paper, but you think very little of it? How do you, without diminishing the recognition that you've received for doing your job, how do you display and teach humility?
Well, I was making a little jab when I said for doing my job,
Right.
because like that's what's silly about those awards is I was doing my job.
Yeah.
I didn't need those awards. I don't. For a long time, they're in a box somewhere at the bottom of stuff, and Amanda found them. She's like, "What? Why?" And I'm like, "Why bring them out? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? You know what I mean? It doesn't make." and so it's for me. It's kind of like what I was just doing with you. Is like I was just doing my job. You
Right.
know. Now I understand the importance of them
Mm-hmm.
for sure, and I also respect them because my leadership put me in for them.
Right.
And so it was very similar to like when Jocko and Seth needed me to do something in regards to that position of leadership. I didn't want to do it, but I respected them. And so ultimately I'm like, cool, roger that. I trust them and I respect them. And my leadership felt like I deserve that recognition. I don't, but I respect it.
Right.
And I also respect the fact that the military does it for a reason. And I understand that. And so part of that is because of the awards that I had when I came back, and Seth tried to put me in for a combat promotion while we were in Ramadi from E5 to E6, and it got denied because Big Navy, according to what I heard, was they said I was too young and junior in rank. So I didn't, that's why I love when people are like, you don't understand the bureaucracy of this company. I'm like, have you ever heard of the U.S. Navy?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that's what I heard. Okay. So it's not a factual statement. It's what I heard. And I didn't care. Like, I'm like, cool, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
But because I had those awards, when I took my E6 exam, each of those awards gives you points towards advancement.
Right.
And the guy looked at my thing with all my stuff. He goes, brother, all you have to do is put your name on and you're going to pass this test. I was like, well, I'm going to take the test.
Yeah.
But, it gives you advantage to stuff.
Yeah.
And so I do understand that aspect, and I appreciate it because it helped me make E6, because I took the test and I passed and got picked up for E6 pretty quick,
Right.
Which was awesome. So there was that benefit. And when you look at it from that aspect, it's like, okay, well, if you do your job and if you go above and beyond according to your leadership, I'm not saying I did, but according to your leadership, saying that you went above and beyond to do something, and they want to recognize you and reward you for that through an award that will help you with promotion. So that way, eventually you can get a little extra pay. All right, cool. I'm down with that. I appreciate it. But in regards to like those medals defining me, no, not even close. I know guys that, I know I know of guys that have gone out and bought ribbons and medals before they were awarded to them because they thought that they were getting that award.
No way.
It's an image thing, man. Yeah. This is not just saying the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in other branches, guys have done that as well. Like I've heard that story from other guys where I'm like, I knew of a few SEALs that did that. Shocking. If you were to judge how the guys ranked them in regards to humble, where do you think they ranked?
Oh,
high or low?
Low. Like not on the radar.
Yeah. And, and that's a problem because now guys see that. It's kind of hard to trust somebody like that because you're like, wait, are you doing this for the teams or are you doing it for your credit and recognition?
Yeah.
And that's, once you start thinking that way towards somebody, it's kind of hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I directly answered your question.
Well, I think you kind of got to the heart of it, which is like because there are a lot of organizations, right? And the SEALs are an organization like any other, right? In the sense that like they do a great job of being intentional about recognizing when people are doing something at a certain level of excellence. And most great organizations do that.
Yeah.
Right. Most companies have some kind of, salesman of the year or the month or something like that award and like those kinds of things. Right. Which could easily be said.
And that goes to what? One person, right?
Right.
Because they went above and beyond. And they came in first.
And And the reason that I bring that up is because there are a lot of people that get asked to, maybe you give a talk to all the junior sales guys because you won Salesman of the Year every month for the last year or whatever, right?
Yeah, if you're doing,
Right. But my reason for bringing that up is that if your identity is based in the accolades, right, then when you actually go and have a message that somebody needs to hear, if your identity is based in the fact that you were Salesman of the Year or Salesman of the Month or whatever, it's going to be a lot harder for them to receive that message from you versus if you approach it in, hey, you know what? The reason that I got this award is because I did my job and I was able to do it at a level of excellence because of the process, because of these things. Let me tell you about these things that I did that did it, instead of I'm talking to you because I'm the Salesman of the Year, because they've given me blah, blah, blah. Like those people I write off.
Well, it's also the same people that a title is very important to them.
Right.
And that's fine. There are people that are driven by their title.
Sure.
That's the same type of people that are driven by recognition.
Yeah.
And so, that's a fine line that you have to, that's what we talk about. We talk about this all the time on here. And then you and I talk about it a lot. And then like when we do the Echelon Front workshops, which I know we have another one coming up Tuesday, December 3rd.
Yeah, which I'm pretty stoked about.
One of the things that we're going to be doing is an honest self-assessment.
I hate it.
We do the balance assessment. And it's an important tool.
It is.
That gives you awareness of where you're at. And if you do it honestly and with transparency and humility, like it's going to show you, the mirror is going to be in front of you, right? It's not the fogged out mirror. It's the clean mirror. And I think that's important because that's how you start working towards that humility. And that, we do that in the workshops. But what I was saying is you and I have talked about this a lot in regards to assessments. We've talked about it a lot on here. And, people, if that's where you're at, that's fine. Like, okay, cool. Like we've all been there though. Let's be real. We've all wanted the credit before. We've all wanted the titles. And then as you get older and you mature and you recognize, oh, that actually doesn't matter. That title doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything. You might be able to use some fear and intimidation with your title, but that's not leadership. That's not building relationships. That's not influencing somebody. And so if you focus on like doing the right things for the right reasons, like that's what we need. And, the other thing is, when to your point of like how you're trying to inspire people to go do the work, like you also have to understand, like people have to want to do the work. You can't make anybody want it. Like that's something that they have to want. Now we can try to paint a picture to where they understand like, hey, like life is going to be a lot better. Like if you do these things, yes, it's hard, and you paint the picture of discipline equals freedom. And that's what we should all be striving to do. It's like, I would say probably pretty similar to what we should be doing as Christians.
Right.
And what you do as a pastor is showing people like, hey, salvation is a great thing, but I can't make you do it.
Yeah.
I can paint the picture. I can tell you the benefits of receiving salvation. I can tell you the benefits of, walking, on the right path towards salvation, what it looks like to be, being a good Christian. Like I can tell you all these things and the benefits, but you can't make anybody receive salvation.
Yeah.
It's a heart thing. It's a posture of the heart, and they have to be intentional with it. It's the same thing in business. I can't make somebody go put the work in. I can't make somebody work extra hard. I can't make somebody put in the hours. I can't make anybody do that. I couldn't make anybody make it their buds. They had to want it 100% on their own. It's what they want. And so in life, I think we have to be very intentional with our ecosystem and our circle of influence, and intentionally building it, improving it, and understanding like, hey, am I an asset or a liability to my ecosystem, my circle of influence, my tribe, whatever you want to call it? And then you have to evaluate the people in it. It's like, okay, where are they? What are they? And those are hard things to navigate in business and life. And that was hard to do even in the SEAL teams, and really hard to do in business. And, I saw that in I've talked about that in that financial company I worked for when I got out. I was like, wait, people make up fake invoices to get paid? and they don't go to jail? Wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
this guy's mother effing this other guy behind his back so that the boss thinks he looks bad so he can get a promotion? Oh, and they know that's like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
what is happening? So, I don't know. It's tricky, man. Life is tricky. Business is tricky. Combat was tricky. But ultimately, humility is the number one characteristic that helps you actually be a good human and a good leader. Because if I'm being humble, I'm going to listen to you. If I'm being humble, I'm willing to ask you for help. It'd be like somebody opening a business in this area, and like, let's say somebody wanted to open a fitness kickboxing gym that wasn't going to be near Josh's gym.
Right.
And I was like, hey man, like, I know you're trying to figure out some stuff with, just running the business, scheduling and, the teaching the class. Like, hey, you're trying to figure it all out. Like, hey, you should call one of my best friends, Josh Strasburger. This is what he's done. He's run it. He can give you advice on how he's structured his marketing campaigns, his taxes, his payroll, his memberships, all the promotions, all these things. And then you never call them. Like, why would you not call him?
Yeah.
But what would be the reason why you don't call him? There's two reasons. One, you're lacking what? Humility.
Yes.
And you're lacking what? Drive.
Yeah.
Because that might take a little bit of effort. But if you're willing to have those humbling, hard conversations and ask for help, you're being disciplined to be default aggressive, to go out there and seek the information, the knowledge, and everything else like that. Does it not give you freedom on the back end?
100%.
Yeah. That's why discipline equals freedom.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah. So I've got two questions. Kind of, I want to use that as kind of a jumping off point for something else, and then I got a follow up question for you. There was a story I heard years ago about a guy who, very successful business guy, is walking down the street, and he sees a classmate of his who is homeless. And he looks at him and he's like, hey, I forget what their names were, but, he's like, hey, essentially like, Johnny, is that you? And he's like, yeah, I didn't recognize you. And he's like, well, I recognized you. I see you walk by here all the time, but I don't want to say anything because, we used to be peers, and now obviously like you're doing really well and you're not. And so the guy's like, bro, let me help you out. And he's like, my bank is 2 blocks away. I'm going to give you a $10,000 check. It's made out to cash, right? I'm going to call the bank, let them know that you've got it. And you'll like, let me help you get back on your feet.
Yeah.
2 days later, he comes back and his buddy's panhandling again. And he's frustrated at him. He's like, hey, why are you still doing this? He's like, well, I was afraid that people at the bank and blah, blah. He's like, I've already called the bank. Everybody there knows. He's like, the thing that you don't understand, that you're not getting, is the only thing that matters is that my name is on the check. Right? If you will just go cash it, they know everything they need to know. And it's your insecurities, and it's your desire to not get out of the zone, the comfort zone that you've put yourself in. You have become comfortable being a beggar, and you're terrified of what's going to happen when you go cash that check. And, there are different ways to relate it. And the way that I first heard the story is the guy that told it was, the businessman was a friend of his, both guys that he went to school with. And he was like, for me, when I look at that story, like that is what Jesus was in my life.
Oh,
as that, like, he offered to me like forgiveness, he offered salvation, and like I refused to go cash this check. And the only thing that mattered was that his name was the one that was on it. Oh. That, like, I could receive all of that at any time. All I had to do was repent and believe. And the other application that he got out of it is he was like, it was a wake-up call for me in my business to realize that like the things that we were doing were unfruitful because I was not satisfied, but I was comfortable not doing the things that we needed to do to take us to the next level and be successful, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how I was going to be judged and any of that. He goes, but the bottom line was I knew that I was called to do something different, and I knew that God's name was the one that was on the check. And if I just did what I was called to do, and I was like, man, it's incredible. So now very successful businessman, obviously. And, now him and those other two guys hang out. And they, now they swap stories. The guy who was homeless, he's not homeless anymore, but he's also like not a tycoon of business like the other guys are. He's not making 7-8 figures like those two dudes are, but he's happy, right? Got a good job, married, got a family, like all of the things that he views as successful. Like that's it. And it all came from this like one thing. So there is a certain humility with all of that, and in the generosity and the understanding, of their friend who was homeless. The thing that I kind of want to flip on its ear of this conversation is, how do you show respect to, since we've been talking about fear and respect and we've been talking about humility, how do you show respect to the boss or the leader or the friend that you have that is arrogant and does not possess humility? How do you build a relationship so that you can influence them? Because that's the number 2 thing in the relationship. You got to trust and you got to show respect. How do you show respect to somebody who completely lacks humility?
I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt initially.
Okay.
That they're not intentionally trying to be super cocky and arrogant, and that maybe they don't understand like how they come off. They don't understand that they are being perceived as being arrogant and cocky.
Sure.
Lacking, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to have a little empathy for them.
Okay.
And understand that, hey, there's been plenty of times in my life where somebody from a different angle probably thought that about me.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Factual. And so, since somebody has given me grace and empathy and patience, then I should probably give that back to other people. And I'm just going to focus on what I can control. And what I can control is my attitude, my work ethic, my integrity, and my discipline. And if I focus on doing those things while being very humble, then those things can also influence the people around me. So if I'm building a good relationship, just a working relationship, but a really good working relationship with that individual, then I actually eventually have influence over them. And I can make comments when they're being arrogant, cocky, and whatever, where I can be like, hey, man, like, chill.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can actually have conversations, and I can be like,
So I think we figured something out with this headphone experiment.
Yeah. I can Velcro it to the bottom right here.
Get longer cables.
No, I'm not sitting properly, but
You're just too huge. You're too huge for the headphones.
Are you fat shaming me?
You're too muscular for the headphones. I'll rephrase. Yeah. Those are my synonyms.
You're not supposed to use big words. Okay. I'm going to try to have those things. And so that way, if I build up a good enough working relationship, I have influence with that person to actually have that conversation. I can actually tell them like, hey man, you're being pretty arrogant and cocky. I know that's not your intent, but man, that's the perception of the other people. And then at that point, I can see how they take it. And if they're like, oh, really? Okay. Boom. Or if they're just like, oh, whatever, bro, that's just where I am. They're just soft. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I know what I'm dealing with, and I'm going to do the best I can to manage and just mitigate that risk.
Yeah. Does it ever make you want to take that person out and show them that they're softer than they think they are?
Yes. 100%. And that's why
what's
Jiu-Jitsu,
the percentage? I was going to say, what's the
that's why
percentage of those
Jiu-Jitsu
guys who
is a
like to do
great
that?
thing because it keeps you humble. That's why combative sports are a great thing because it keeps you humble. That's why hard training is great because it keeps you humble. And that's another thing that if we wanted to go into this depth of how you work through it and what you do, one of the next things that I would talk about if we were doing an expanded talk on this is put them in an environment where they'll be humbled. A controlled training environment where they'll be humbled. The FTX that we run at Echelon Front is a humbling environment
It was humbling just doing the video footage because I nearly like jumping over a creek bed.
Hardcore
nearly
parkour?
Yeah, buddy. I took one of the biggest spills I've had in a really long time, which is why you should look where you're going now through the camera lens. Yeah.
Right behind you.
Oh, man.
But the way my angle from when I saw you just eat it.
Yep.
I was like, oh.
I think
as it started happening, my instinct was going to say hardcore parkour, right?
Right.
But then as I saw it like developing, I was like, oh, he might have hurt himself.
Yeah, it might have been like significantly injured.
There's like a stutter when I was talking to you where I was like, are you okay?
Yeah. I was like, no, yep, fine. Just dirty. Yeah. The only thing that's bruised is my pride and maybe most of the cartilage in my knee.
Bro, you hit so hard.
So hard. And that was, I was talking to somebody, I was actually talking to Kirsten and some of our friends. They were like, hey, so what did you think about the FTX? And I was like, it's rougher than, it's like, are they rough? I was like, no, nature is really unforgiving.
I tried to knee this ravine.
Oh, it was terrible.
And apparently my Muay Thai knee is not effective
it's
against
not there, no.
rocks and dirt and mud and clay.
Yep. Well, in circling back to the beginning of this, when we talk about healthy fear and respect and what that means, and hard training helps with all of that stuff. I think one of the people that I fear is Formiga, right?
That's a good healthy fear to have,
right? Because
Brent, I'm just gonna say,
yeah. Well, so I haven't gotten to roll with Brent,
bro.
And I've not personally rolled with Professor Formiga, but I've watched Professor Formiga roll with a lot of people.
Yeah. So I'm telling you right now, my top list of guys that I just know are going to tune me up.
Mm-hmm. Brent's on there.
Yes.
Like top 3.
Yes.
Right on.
So this is in no particular order though. What I'm about to say, but obviously Formiga.
Yep.
Anthony. Trey. Brent. Kramer. Who else? And now of course I'm drawing a blank.
Kramer's always been like super nice with me, but I'm terrible at jiu-jitsu. And so I think he sees me as like a cute little Viking project.
Yeah. Those guys. And then my buddy Dave Kroll, who just got his black belt this Saturday.
Yeah. Congrats, Big Dave.
Dude, he's a problem.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other guys,
But those ones,
but those are the guys. But the reason why I'm listing those guys is those are the guys that I consistently roll with.
Yeah.
Tristan. Oh, dude, that guy freaking whoops me, man. So it's like, I'm like, oh, great. Weston, dude. Like, I mean, Tom from New York, or we call him New York Tom. Like, dude's a problem.
Yeah.
And so, like, those guys, I have a healthy level of fear of their jiu-jitsu capabilities.
Right.
I'm not fearful of them.
Right.
Like, I don't fear any man. Like, I've never feared another man. Like, I'm like, hey, man, they could whoop me. I might whoop them. And I'm always like, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, like, hey, we're in a controlled jiu-jitsu environment. Like you're a black belt. You should be able to put the beating on me, And they do. Oh,
yeah, man.
I mean, bro, those guys tune me up. Anthony, bro, with that gas tank.
Well, and
Brent's
the reason
judo also.
Did Brent do judo before he did jiu-jitsu, or
I think he's
does
a
it together?
black belt in judo also, bro.
Oof.
I'm pretty sure
That's a deadly combination.
Not, he should.
Yeah.
But I know his professor that he came up under was like a world champion judo guy who was just hardcore judo and jiu-jitsu. That's who he came up under.
That's stellar, man.
I mean.
Yeah. And so the reason I bring that up is because, like, I'm on the mats.
Mm-hmm.
I completely fear Formiga. But I also would not think twice about handing him my 6-month-old.
Oh.
Like at all. Like, if something was happening...
Yeah.
And like if there's an emergency that's going on, he's in the area, that's maybe who I just hand Scotty to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I need you to take care of him while I go do this.
And he's phenomenal with kids.
He's going to be great with him.
No, I'm telling you, he's phenomenal with kids.
Scotty's not going to want to come back to me because he's going to be hanging out with Uncle Rafael just over there in the corner.
Yep. That's cool.
Playing. And that's when we talk about what it means to really like fear the Lord, it's that same type of just like tremendous and healthy respect of like, you know what? I don't want to be in an altercation with you. I don't want us to be in a place where our relationship is damaged or there's friction there.
Yeah.
But because I know what you're capable of. But also I understand that those capabilities are beyond your ability to use force. And like, hey, you know what? I really want my kids to grow up around you.
Yeah.
And I do think that, he's a wonderful example of that. I think you and the guys at EF that I've gotten to know are great examples of that. I don't want to do anything obviously to damage our relationship, but I also don't want to end up in an altercation with you or Leif or any of those guys because of your capabilities. But at the same time, the relationships that we've been able to build, like, my kids love you. And that's one of the things that's so cool when we look at what fear of the Lord means in this terminology of like healthy respect, kind of bringing it full circle is like, you're not somebody that I want to be in conflict with. And especially when we're talking about God, like I don't want to be in conflict with an all powerful God.
0%.
But I would really love for God to have a tremendous influence in my kid's life.
Yep.
And I think that's where that balance is.
That's
So
cool.
Yeah, it's a neat thing. I was thinking about, the more and more I thought about it, I was like, who are the people that I actually like have this kind of respect for? Certainly you're one of them. Formiga is definitely one of them. And there's a handful of other guys that like, I don't fear us having any conflict because I know that in the times where we've had disagreements or whatever, we sort it out, we figure it out. But more than that, like your relationship with those people that you have this healthy fear for, because of their authority, they're also the people that you want to be around and that you want to have influence in you and to influence the people that are around you. And I think that those are some of the things that you've got to balance out. And when you look at the fear of the Lord, I think that's really one of those defining things. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I like it. So I think it's a good spot.
Yeah.
Transition out.
Let's do it.
All right, cool.
It's great.
So,
It's a great time to transition.
yeah. Again, we have that event on December 3rd. It is Tuesday, December 3rd. It is a full day leadership workshop that Lucas's production company is hosting. And the hosting agency is...
The hosting agency is the Texas Health. So Texas Health is like a whole big branch of hospitals, but the Texas Health police force is who's hosting it, and their security team, because they've got, like we talked about before, they got some weird overlap and responsibilities. Yeah. But they're doing it. It's going to be at Texas Health Dallas, and it is a full day Echelon Front leadership workshop hosted by Echelon Front CTO JP Dinnell. And I throw that in there only because titles don't matter. I feel like you guys use titles like they used points on Whose Line Is It Anyway? You remember that? Did you watch that show?
Not really.
Oh, so
I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an improv comedy show, and they're like, "Oh, where everything's made up, but the points don't matter." And I feel like that's the way that you guys throw out titles. Yeah.
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 Just as long as you don't think CTO stands for Chief Technology Officer,
bro.
Yep.
I need you to look at my algorithm later and see if you can fix it for me.
I can break your technology, but
can you help me with my WordPress site, Mr. CTO?
Yeah, I can help you find somebody.
Yeah, you can direct me to Ben.
Direct you to Google. Oh, good times. But yes, Tuesday, December 3rd, here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yep.
And the reason why I asked the hosting agency is because it will be TCOL certified for our first responders, law enforcement agents that come to the training. They'll get their accredited hours, which is awesome.
I think 7.5 hours in the generic leadership category is where this one's going.
Bro, that's huge, man. I was talking with the officer that does the security at Milestone up in McKinney, Randy. This guy's a stud, man. Moved from California like 3 years ago with his family, and he's this guy was I was very impressed talking with him and telling him about it and his guys. And so it'd be cool. Hopefully some of those guys are able to come to it. And Chris Lerma was saying that he's obviously got a really good relationship with McKinney PD.
Oh, cool.
And hopefully some of them will be able to come to the training.
That'd be
as
stellar.
well.
And it is open to anybody because it's not just like law enforcement specific. We've got some folks from, we've got some teachers that have signed up for this one that are like, hey, you know what? We've seen these principles at work, and then we've got a few financial advisors that are coming to this one, so it's going to be pretty cool. Yeah.
I believe my buddy Tom, who has helped Amanda and I out, he's a nurse at a hospital, and he helped us out with NOLA one time.
Oh, right on.
And then recently we reached out to him, and he was able to help give us direction as well. I think he's going to be off that day and able to come. He wasn't able to come to the last one. I think he's going to be able to come to this one. So
right on, man.
Anyways, so before we close it out, just wanted to thank all of you guys for all the support that you guys give us, for listening, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube so you can be notified when the YouTube exclusive episodes come out. Keep spreading the word. We need the help, and we appreciate all the help that you have given us. If you want to follow us on social media, I am at JP Dinnell. That's JPDINNELL. Lucas is at Lucas Pinckard. That's at LUCASPINCKARD. Make sure you're also following Echelon Front on social media. We are at Echelon Front, and then you can go to the website, which is echelonfront.com. Click on the event, see some future events that we have going on, or if you want myself or any of our instructors to come out and work with you in our company, you can reach out to us and let us know what you need. Also,
big event coming up is the To Honor Those run.
Yeah, you can still sign up for that.
Talking about vets,
Yes.
Was talking to Heather. She's getting ready to order some more challenge coins because the signups have been.
That's awesome.
So one of the things
it's a run, not a race.
Yes,
whatever you want to do.
One of the things we really need with the To Honor Those run is we need some nominees. There's a spot where you can nominate a first responder or a veteran to be the beneficiary of some of the funds that were raised. And we've got a lot of people that are excited, stoked about signing up for the run. We don't have enough veterans and first responders being nominated.
Being able to go to a muster.
Yep. So,
come on.
Nominate somebody to go because we want this to be able to be something we can do annually and get those people that training. So
I think it might be able to do something that we do twice a year minimum. You don't have to do the half marathon twice a year. You could do whatever you want.
You know, Cody was talking. We were talking
about
this.
What if you made a commitment to run a 5K or a 10K once a quarter?
My legs would fall off.
Shut up.
I'd have to call Rob
to borrow some of his.
To borrow his legs.
But
no, Cody was talking about this at the FTX that we're considering. I say he and Rob are considering, because this is kind of their project, making it a different challenge every year. So like it may be a half marathon this year, but like next year it may be like doing a Murph for that, or a workout of the day for doing one of the hero workouts, and that's the challenge on the thing. I think some of those things would be cool. So yeah, but make sure you're nominating folks, and if you're part of the run, it is not a race.
Yeah, virtual run.
Yeah, virtual run. And if it takes you 6 hours to do 13.1 miles, like it might me, and cool.
Yeah, no factor. All right, check out Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. It's a ministry I'm a part of. On social media, it's at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. Our website is JesusandJujitsuUSA.com.
Got real clever.
Well,
Yeah.
Second law of combat, keep it simple.
Yep.
We have a podcast that comes out every Tuesday, live events about every 4 to 6 weeks. When this comes out, we will be
in Dripping Springs.
Some of us will. Some of us will be driving. Some will be driving the next day. But tomorrow, as you're listening to this, if you're listening to it the day that it comes out, hopefully you are.
You better be.
Or else.
Fear us.
This might be the time I request an edit. We'll see.
I really had to dig deep for that voice, though.
We're going to be in Dripping Springs at Stoic Jiu-Jitsu doing a Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu seminar. It's free to come. Just show up, come, bring some friends. Even if they don't train Jiu-Jitsu, bring some friends. Because Tim Kennedy is going to be teaching the seminar.
Yes.
And I'm willing to bet he's going to pick me to teach the techniques on, which he's very pleasant and gentle and does not inflict any pain at all. He's just not capable of that. And
Just baiting him the day before the
bro,
thing.
Tim doesn't listen to this podcast, nor is he going to hear this.
I'm
fine.
gonna.
And then Leif Babin will be giving his testimony.
Who does listen to this podcast and knows Tim Kennedy?
Yeah. You know what I found out? Listening to this podcast, I didn't think listen. Jamie Cochran listens to it.
Why?
Oh, she clearly has free time.
Yeah,
But
no kidding.
anyways, I think that's kind of cool. I
That's
love Jamie.
awesome.
I love
Yeah.
Leif. They're my
Jamie's
people.
great.
And I just need to get Jamie on the podcast. But anyways, that's what we do at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. Check it out. We'd hope to see you at a live event or one of the discipleship things that Isaac's been putting on, which is incredible.
Yeah, on the Wednesday discipleship thing.
Yep.
Doing once a month,
Go
yep.
check out littlecattle.co.
Get that beef.
Yeah, dog. It's a Texas beef company I'm a partner of. We are a custom beef company that allows you to order exactly what you want anytime, and we are able to deliver anywhere in the lower 48 states. We have a ground beef subscription plan. We have different beef tallow products, which include body butter, tallow cream, lip balm. We also have beef sticks.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a wholesaler for the beef sticks or the beef tallow products, please send an email to amanda@littlecattle.co. Also a partner with a printing company called On the Path Printing. Reach out to us on Instagram. Our Instagram page is @OnThePathPrinting, and just send us what you want, what you need, and we will get with you and see if we have the ability to fulfill your apparel printing needs. If not, we can recommend some other good companies that would be able to help you out. Leif, Jocko, and I have a company called Bruiser Arms. You check it out on Instagram. We are @Bruiser Arms. Send us a message to inquire about some of the different custom gear packages we offer and also the training classes that you need and or want. If you have a need, if your department has your need, if you and your friends and buddies have a need, you want to do a team building shoot, get together, shoot, let us know. We can put it together for you. Also want to thank Origin and Jocko Fuel for all they have done over the years and the example that Pete and Amanda Roberts set for putting in the work, putting in the effort, working hard. You know, business is not a 9 to 5, it's a 5 to 9 plus some, and they exemplify that, you know, what they've done with Origin. And I'm just incredibly honored to call them my friends, legitimately my friends, and be able to learn from them. So if you want to check out what they're doing, Origin is a 100% American-made manufacturing company, and it's incredible. Go to originusa.com. They started off doing jiu-jitsu gis and rash guards, and then moved into boots and pants and T-shirts and hoodies.
Puffy jackets now?
And then, I had that puffy jacket. It's unreal. The
I
stealth
got the
wool
text-
jacket.
Yeah, I got
is
the text
unreal.
about it this week. If they're like, "Hey, we had to make this overseas."
Oh, the new
Or
vest.
that's what they told us.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
the puffy jacket and the vest. The vest looks pretty cool.
It's cool, man. It's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. So great, 100% American-made products. Also go to jockofuel.com to check out all their awesome, incredible supplements, the cleanest energy drinks on the market. Man, I just hope this episode has been a reminder as we close this out that life requires a lot of hard work. Ministry requires a lot of hard work. Faith requires a lot of hard work. Your marriage requires a lot of hard work. Being a good parent requires a lot of hard work. Being a friend requires a lot of hard work. And hey, there's going to be times that you get tired and exhausted and worn out. But if you take the time to detach from your emotions, step back and ask yourself, okay, hey, what does winning look like? What is my mission today? And if you ask the Lord for that help and that energy and also that peace that's needed to be able to think and work through these times, you're going to have the proper direction. But remember, you actually have to go out there and do the work. So I hope this episode has been a reminder to go out there, do the work that's needed, to put in the effort, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 60.